Hello. Good morning, everyone. How's your Wednesday?
Hey,
Hi. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Finally eating something other than chips, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chips is not a healthy breakfast. It's true.
It's not a healthy breakfast, but it's the one thing that I can just grab and come back to my room with.
I understand. What is that guy out there doing?
Are you feeling any better?
A little bit. I started antibiotics, so hopefully that'll kick in pretty quickly and that will help.
Have you gotten your test back yet?
Yeah, I was negative, so I do not have COVID. So I got yesterday, I had to go to the doctor and I had a strep test and that was negative too. So then now they're saying that it's a sinus, they think it's a sinus infection.
Yeah. My allergies have been killing me all day. It's a poor quality air day, so
Oh,
yeah.
that makes sense then. Yeah.
Me and my dad are currently suffering because we
Aw.
have some of the worst allergies ever.
Yeah.
Like for me, this is an okay day because like my nose is just clogged and that's it.
Mhm.
But on really, really bad days, I can't eat because of how much mucus is in my system.
Oh no, that's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. But yeah, I've had strep before. I doubt you would have strep because I'm gonna just like assume.
Yeah, I've never had strep throat, like literally ever. So I didn't think that I had strep, but I was like, they wanted to just, rule it out. And
I will warn you, if you ever do get strep, afterwards you start getting really paranoid of things afterwards.
Yeah.
Like every time my throat started hurting, I immediately was like, "Do I have strep? I don't want to have strep again." Because that's what it started out like. It just started out like, "Oh, my throat hurts,"
Yeah.
and then it got worse, and then it got worse and worse and worse and worse. Like it started out as just my throat was red, like it was really red, and then they started seeing things. It was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think I had strep, but like I said, I was like, well, if they want to like do the test, then we might as well do it and rule it out, like so.
Yeah, that's good because you don't know what it is, and so
Right, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I was like, okay, let's just do it, get it over with, and
fun process. And I think you're frozen.
oh, am I?
Oh, no, you're back. You can move. You were either super still or you were frozen.
Could be both.
Yeah. So, what are we learning today?
How about Chinese theater?
Chinese theater. Ooh.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That sounds fun. Have you ever been to Bush's Chicken?
I don't think so.
Have you ever been to Waco?
Yes, I have been to Waco twice. The first time was when we were going down to San Antonio to go to PAX East or PAX South, the first
PAX
year
South.
that they had it. Yeah. And then the second time was when my mom and I were going down to San Antonio because that's where one of my cousins actually lives there now.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So I've been there a couple of times. Well, my mom is a huge what's the name of it? Chip and Joanna's whole deal. Yeah. She's a huge fan of their stuff. So it was like, well, we're going down. On our way down, we didn't stop, but we stopped on our way home.
Oh yeah, I've like been near the area where Chip and Joanne like sell their stuff
Mm-hmm.
in like the big sellers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, fun fact, my dad went to high school with her.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that is cool. My mom went to high school with Dolly Parton.
That's cool.
But yeah, so she's a big fan. And so we went through there because she really wanted to see it. So that was fun. I mean, I like the show. I know it's not on now. They're launching their like channel. They like bought some other like home channel or something.
Yeah.
And they're launching that. So I think when they launch that, we'll you can like, we have YouTube TV and you can add it on YouTube TV for like $5 a month or something. So I think we're going to do that for a couple of months to see like what it's about. And if my mom really likes it, well, we'll probably keep it or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. See, the reason why I was asking is because I was born in Waco.
Oh.
So that's my hometown. And like, it's so hard to find people who've actually like been to Waco.
Yeah, I liked it. It's a cute little town. We went and got coffee at like a little cafe there that was not too far away from the college, and it was really nice.
Yeah. Like I got to see part of I lived in Waco for a long time. Like up until I was 5, and then I would visit almost every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a bunch of family who lives in the area.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you've actually like seen it from like when I was a kid and then now, it has completely been renovated.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like it was originally just like kind of like there were certain parts that were like not the greatest, and there was parts that were like, yeah, it's a great place. But like it's now become like Chip and Joanne's personal playground. I swear everything is now turned into like Chip and Joanna this, Chip and Joanna that. Come to our museum about mammoths because we have the only furry mammoths in Texas.
Well, how long has Baylor been there?
Long time.
Oh, okay. So, well, Baylor probably, 1845. Wow. I know Baylor like has grown and grown and grown. So that probably also helps because it's like a more popular college and stuff now too.
Yeah. It's a more popular college. Chip and Joanne make it famous.
Yeah.
They make people want to go there, which then makes people want to live there, which then makes people want to renovate.
Yeah. One of the graduates, like one of the professors I had in graduate school works at Baylor now. So I see. Yeah. We'll wait a couple more minutes. We've got some people in the waiting room filtering in, so we will try to get as many people in here as we can before we get started. I see Mia and I see Alyssa. So for those of you who are here, if you can turn your cameras on so I can finish attendance, that would be helpful. Thank you. Alyssa, thank you. You can turn yours back off because you're at school. Brian, thank you. You can turn yours back off since you're at school. Let's see. We've got Tyler, Victor, Jaden. Oh, we got more people in the waiting room. Laura, I see now. And Hannah's here. There's Laura. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Hello, Mia. All right, thank you. So yeah, as always, turn your cameras on and then you have to turn it off again to hear me better. Then I understand. Just be ready. If I call on you, be ready to participate. Okay, we're going to try to get through Chinese theater today. This is going to be our last section for quarter 1, obviously, and then we will have an exit ticket today, which will be your last grade for quarter 1. Again, a reminder, late work. If you have late work that you need to turn in, tomorrow at midnight, I need it turned in. If you have any summatives, I will accept summatives through Friday. Okay. So if you have a summative that you need to redo or you need to make up, that's the only thing I will accept on Friday. Okay. So if you send me exit tickets on Friday, I'm not going to be working on those. I'm only accepting summatives. And the reason why is because I want to sort of give you just that one extra little day for the most important things. So just to sort of remind everybody, the summatives were the plot and vocabulary quiz. So there's a makeup for that available, right? We had the Roman playwright presentation. So you could do an alternative assignment or you could fix what you did on those presentations and resubmit it. And then you had the Japanese theater presentations. Okay. So everything else but summatives, you've got to have in by Thursday. But I will be accepting summatives only through Friday at midnight out of the kindness of my shriveled up heart. Okay.
So what assignments, excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Theory. Go ahead.
So what assignments are you still taking?
I'm taking everything right now until Thursday at midnight. And then after that point, only summatives.
Okay.
Okay. So anything you want to make up right now is fair game. And everything I think is open. I'm pretty sure. So if you didn't turn in your journals, if you didn't do the mask early this semester, if you have exit tickets you didn't do, if you know, that stuff, go ahead and do it. I am totally fine with that. If you're unsure of what you're missing, talk to me and I will check that out for you. But after Thursday, I can only really deal with summatives because let's say every single student I have turns in one late summative on Friday. That means I'd have about like 120 so summatives to grade, right? And I have to turn them in like the following Wednesday. So that's why I'm saying like I can't really do any other stuff except for summatives after Thursday. Okay. If you have questions, then reach out to me. Let me know. Sorry, I'm just responding to a parent email. If you want to email me items that you can't turn in, go ahead and do that. So sort of be proactive. Okay. But yeah, I don't have office hours today because it's Wednesday, but I will on Thursday. So if you want to come to my office hour starting at 3:00 on Thursday, you can also do that if you have questions, and we can talk then. Any other questions from anybody else before we start talking about Chinese theater? No? Everything's sort of clear? For the most part, most of you have maybe one summative that you didn't do, maybe two in a couple of cases. There might be some summatives that just didn't get turned in. I know that there was one group that I never got a Japanese theater presentation from the whole group. So it could be that that was just a miscommunication. So somebody turn that in, get a better grade, or like I said, fix whatever you were responsible for the group presentations. Let me see. No, I got that one, Mildred. So double check your grades at the end of this. We should have a little bit of time maybe at the end of the class where you can see like, oh, hey, I did, I did do the Japanese theater presentation, but I got a 50 on it. Well, that means it wasn't submitted and or your name wasn't on it, right? Because I can't give you a grade if your name was missing from the project, okay? All right, so let's talk about Chinese drama. I think you guys will like this. It's sort of fun and interesting. And there's a lot to look at and there's a lot to talk about. And I forgot to put it in the right view. My apologies. Just a second. Okay. We're going to skip the journal entry, but I would like you to do this journal entry later on your own time. Okay. So just think about for now and do the journal entry later. Anything that you know about China's history. So is there anybody in here who has any knowledge about sort of what's gone on in the very, very long history of China? Yes, Emma, go ahead.
I know one thing is that it just kept like coming together, breaking apart, coming together, breaking apart.
Yeah, because it's a huge land, right? So yeah. Anytime you have like that sort of huge geography. Yeah. Okay. So Alyssa says the one child policy, which was for a long time, right? The policy in China that couples were only allowed to have one child, which if you're at all familiar, resulted in a lot of female children being put up for adoption and sometimes being killed right after their birth, unfortunately. And I believe that is actually been revised to 2 because what it sort of resulted in there being like way more men than women, right? I could be wrong, but that is part of the gender gap, exactly. As of like 2015, says Zanette. Excellent. Yeah. So that policy created this gender gap and they had to revise it, right? But that's part of the Communist Party in China, right? Which is sort of the ruling party. It is the ruling party of China. And so we're obviously going to be going way, way before that, but we will actually touch on a little bit at the very end of this class what's changed since communism came to China. Okay. But yeah, good job. Yes, Emma.
There was also, I think, this guy called Confucius.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. A philosopher. Yes, exactly. Yeah, good. So actually you guys came up with a lot of things. You guys know a lot more about China than the other classes did. So good work. All right. Okay, so an introduction, we're going to talk about super early Chinese performances and rituals. We're going to talk about early plays that happened at the court. We're going to talk about early comedic Chinese opera and then the Beijing or Peking opera, and I'm going to put both of those in the chat, which is the opera in China as it's performed today, okay? Now, when we think opera, what do you think of when you hear opera? Yeah, go ahead, Emma. Mildred says singing. Victor says singing loud.
I see singing. I also just see someone lots of breath support.
Okay, yeah.
And always in either I think Italian.
There's a lot of Italian operas. There's a lot of German operas. And we're going to talk about Chinese opera today. But yeah, you are going to see a lot of singing, classy and formal. Okay. Yeah, good. So you've already got an idea of sort of how this is going to go. But Chinese opera is going to involve a lot more dancing than any of the opera that you may have sort of like seen or heard before. All right, so early Chinese performance, guess what? It's about religion. Surprise, surprise, right? Theory, can you go ahead and read this slide for us, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
The thing that is most unique about early Chinese theater is that Chinese developed a writing language very earlier than a lot of cultures. This leaves a written trail that starts as early as 1700
Yeah.
BCE.
Good. Yes. Sorry about that. I was trying to reply to somebody and I hit the enter key and it moved. Yeah. Okay. So now we're at 1700 before Common Era. All right. When were we talking about the theater in ancient Greece? When were those playwrights alive? You're one. Yeah, there we go. I think Zanette added one extra O. 5th century BCE. So this is 1200 years earlier than ancient Greece. Okay. So what does that tell you about writing in China? Was it really important to them? Very advanced. Yeah, it was important. Do you remember what we talked about with why we lost so much of like the ancient Greek plays? What happened to that writing? Wars, yes. What else? What happened to the paper? They got destroyed, okay? So a lot of this, they very, very carefully preserved, right? Yeah, it disintegrated, it was destroyed. Yeah, you guys are on fire today. Good job. So it was much more carefully preserved in China, right? So this is a great thing for historians because there's so much textual evidence for thousands and thousands of years. Great. All right. So we've got 3 types of early theatrical performances in China. Tyler, why don't you read us these 3?
Hunting dances with style that imitated animals, perhaps done before hunting parties would leave or return. Chorus dances, troops were male or female. Some were religious and others were comic and just for fun. Martial arts demonstrations were popular entertainment.
Good. Yes. Okay. So does this relate to any previous forms of drama that we've discussed? Let's start first with the hunting dances. Sanskrit drama, Indian drama, good, right? How about ancient Greece? How did ancient Greek theater start? What were they doing theater for? For the common people, but they were doing it for a specific purpose, right? Do you remember how they were honoring Dionysus? Right? And they were doing it at around a specific time when they were harvesting what? Yeah, right. Exactly. They were harvesting grapes to make wine, right? Now, we touched on it just a little bit, but we also have found evidence of similar activity in Nigeria, where they would do these dances and these rituals for hunting parties, right? Yeah, Carla, exactly. Yeah, it's used a lot for early religion. But yeah, they would do these dances for hunting parties to either, pray that they would like have a successful hunt because that means that they would be able to eat, right? Or to celebrate their return and if they had a great hunt. Then we have chorus dances. Now, the interesting thing we have here about the chorus is that the troops were all male or all female. So how is that different from the chorus we've talked about before? Yeah, Emma, go ahead.
Usually the chorus was all males, but
Yep.
this has an opportunity for females to also have the chance to sing.
Yeah.
But like it's still separated.
Right. And then Victor and Carla are saying, or right, with Sanskrit drama, we had men and women performing together, right? So they're both performing, but they are sort of isolated, right? Then we have them doing some religious performances, but then we're also having them do some that are comic and are just for fun, for entertainment. Great. And then we have martial arts, right? So they're doing martial arts demonstrations to show off their ability to, sort of like competitions too, where somebody would maybe, become like a new, like sort of like now, like they achieve like a new level of rank or to prove, who's the best or sparring. Emma says, yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's a little bit different, but it's also related to some of the other countries that we've already talked about. Excellent. Good job. All right. So early plays for the court. Now, this is a little bit different because the first thing we have is shamanism. So a shaman, who is also called a wizard, would hold these supernatural seances for the court, but they would add special effects and they would add jokes to their performances, and it would be this like theatrical entertainment, right? We haven't really talked about this before, right? We haven't really discussed like seance. Emma's saying Beetlejuice in the private chat. Yeah. Although we have sort of seen it, right? Remember when we talked about Oedipus Rex? And they would communicate with the gods, right? During Oedipus, they were talking to the gods. Do you remember what god they were like asking for advice from? I can't see you, but I imagine people frantically flipping through their notes. Apollo, yes. Yep. So that just had the wrong twin, right? Apollo, okay? So they would use oracles to communicate with the gods. Apollo was one of them. You had Zeus. You would see Artemis. But yeah, so it's not unheard of, but this is a little bit different. They're performing this for the court. The next thing that we have is this thing called 100 entertainments, and that's the translation of it. But it would basically be this like huge variety show where you could see all of these different things, mimes and acrobats and magicians and jugglers and dancers all performing at court, but they also did these at public festivals, right? So this is kind of similar to the variety of entertainment that we talked about in Rome. So where did they go to see entertainment in Rome that wasn't the theater? Do you remember the two major places we talked about? Or what they were, if you can't remember the names of the...
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. We've got Tyler saying one here, the Colosseum. The two most popular forms of entertainment in Rome, other than theater. So Tyler tells us the Colosseum was one. And what happened at the Colosseum? Fights, yes. Gladiatorial combat, right? And where was the other one? Yeah, good, Victor. The Circus Maximus, where we would have hunting exhibitions, and we would also have chariot races, right? Okay. But out in like the streets of Rome, they would have mimes. Remember how we talked about Roman mime? What did they do with Roman mimes? The church didn't like them. They were comedic. They could also be tragic. They featured women, right? What didn't the mimes use? They spoke. Yes, Victor, perfect. They hated the church. Yeah, yep. They also didn't wear masks, right? Okay. So again, we're seeing some sort of relationship, right, between all of these different places. Now, one cool thing, yeah, they made jokes at the church's expense. Yes, exactly, Zanette. So a cool thing about this is that we actually have terracotta statues of what some of these actors looked like. So here's some statues that were made during this period that show us what some of the entertainers looked like. So here we have a dancer, a female dancer. And do you see these like sleeves she's wearing? These are called water sleeves because they're supposed to like flow like water while she moves her arm. And then we have another person over here. You see how her sleeves are like super long? They go like over her hands, right? And this could have been a comedian. It could have been an actor, right? You've seen something similar in K-dramas? Yeah, yeah. A lot of the traditional wear in some Asian countries, they have things in, that are sort of similar because there was a lot of like cultural overlap for a time until usually like war kind of like tore that apart, right? All right, good. I think these statues are really interesting, right? That we actually have this, like somebody made these in like 1000 BCE, like 3000 years ago. Somebody could have made these and we still have them today. All right. How are we doing? Everybody following me so far? Am I going too quick?
No.
No? Okay. Yeah. And yeah, good. Emma had a great observation that there are different body types, right? We have, one dancer on one side, we have an actor on this side. They don't all look the same, right? It does give you the idea that these may have been modeled after real people, not just, whatever the sculptor was sort of thinking of. Okay, great. Okay, so now we get to the Tang dynasty, okay? T-A-N-G, just like, I don't know if you guys even know about the drink, right? The Tang dynasty. And we have three things that sort of come together to create theater here during this time, okay? Let's see. Zanette, why don't you read these three things for us?
Combination of cultural influences. The Tang Dynasty. Musicians from Myanmar
Yep.
Myanmar visited the court in the 7th century. Vietnamese dancers were employed by the court. Musicians and dancers from India. Controversy.
Okay, great. So this is sort of an invitation from the court to these different countries to bring things to them, right? Music from Myanmar, Vietnamese dancers, and then musicians and dancers from India. So thinking about what we talked about with India, what religion were they sort of basing a lot of their drama around? You know, it says it's like a melting pot. Okay, yes. Now, Ahmed, you're not incorrect with Hinduism, but they're still sort of they're talking primarily about Buddha, right? Okay. So you're not wrong, but at the time it's about, yeah, I just want to like be sure that, you know. So they bring this to China, right? And so as a result, it sort of happens similarly in China, like we discussed in India, where the Buddhist monks begin to use all of these different things together to create theater to teach Buddhism to the audiences, right? So they're using devices from Chinese, you know, traditional dances with Myanmar music, with Vietnamese dance, with dances and music from India, and they bring it all together to visualize their stories to teach the religion. And it gets to the point where the Tang dynasty actually creates schools to teach theater. So one of these schools is about traditional rites and ceremonies from China, right? And one of them is for these Buddhist influenced performers. Yes, Emma?
So we've talked about Buddhism in India. We've
Yes.
talked about Buddhism that happened in Japan
Mhm.
as well. Wouldn't certain stories overlap and like are we having like same stories in different genres? So like maybe there's like the same story for like no theater. Like I don't remember if like no theater had Buddhism in it. I think
It
it
did.
did.
Yeah.
Like in like certain no theater shows overlapping with certain Chinese shows that were the
Right.
same basically.
It could be the same core story, and they're using that, they're just doing it in a different way to appeal to that different audience, right? Kind of how when we talked about Oedipus, right? Sophocles' version of Oedipus Rex was one of just a bunch of different stories of Oedipus. His was just the most popular, right? But yeah, so you could have the same story about the same event, and the details would be changed based on who
The
the audience
area
was.
/ culture.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Yes, Carla. Yeah, there's two different theaters now that are happening: a traditional Chinese like rites and ceremonial theater, and a sort of Buddhist influenced theater that you could go and learn how to do that in. But the government, the Tang dynasty, is actually like, they create these theaters, they're funding these theaters. So that's why it's called like a golden age of the arts, because it was like accessible. Like I said, they paid for it to happen, right? It was sort of like it was supported by the government. Good. You guys are doing great. Any other questions? Before we move on to, boom, Chinese comedic opera. So you're going to hear this pronounced a bunch of different ways, and it sort of depends on the dialect that you're dealing with. So when I learned this, it was Zaju, and then the video, you're going to hear it a different way. And the same thing with Xingzhu. I say it one way. The video that we see from China says it one way, or says it the same way, and then the other video will say it a different way. So I don't want you to get confused. Okay, so we're going to watch just a little clip about this, and then we're going to talk about sort of similarities that it has to some things we've seen before. This is just a couple minutes long.
out in the end. Two distinct styles of drama developed, one in the north called Jiaxu and one in the south called Xuanqi. Jiaxu dramas were 4 acts long, except for the most famous one, the 20-act Romance of the Western Chamber, which got away with it by claiming it was in 5 parts. These 4 acts contain 10 to 20 songs, and those songs were selected from 500 pre-existing melodies and accompanied by gong, drum, clapper, flute, and lute. But here's where it gets tricky. Only the protagonist sings, and each of the 4 acts demands its own vocal timbre and rhyme scheme. These dramas were performed by companies of both male and female actors, some of whom were also probably prostitutes. We have 170 Jiaxu plays, including a couple you may have heard of. The Orphan of Zhao, which is still performed, and The Circle of Chalk, which Bertolt Brecht borrowed for the Caucasian chalk circle. Meanwhile, down south, Xuanqi plays.
Okay, sorry, Xuanqi, but we're not going to talk about you today. All right, so what were sort of the key things that you got out of that? Let me go back. That one went by so fast. Okay, we can go back. Okay, we do have that it was in the north, right? I gave you that. Both men and women, great. 4 acts long usually, except for the most popular one, which was 20 acts, but they said it was in 5 parts, right? 170 of them survive, contain 10 to 20 songs each. You guys are on fire. Great. Here's a really important thing. Only the protagonist sings, right? And each act requires the singer to do really different stuff. So it's very difficult, right? If you are the protagonist in one of these plays, you have to really have an incredible range as far as singing goes, right? Okay. So the other sort of things, key elements about it is that it sometimes features ghosts. Sometimes it has historical characters, elaborate costumes, romance, forbidden love, adventure, and a happy ending. So what does that sound like to you? Indian drama, yes, great, right? Where we go to all these different places. Remember with Shakuntala, her love with the king was forbidden, but they fall in love anyway, right? He's fighting the demons. There's a happy ending where he comes back to the hermitage and he's reunited with Shakuntala and meets their son, right? Okay, so pretty similar, okay? So you see the similarities between this sort of these early plays and what they had been doing in India, right? Good, excellent. Are we still writing? I don't want to move on. I know I put some stuff in the chat. You guys pretty much covered everything in the chat, so that was great. No, everybody's good? Can you give me a thumbs up? Yes, Emma.
Can you hear me? Okay. I think Japan got the sad end of the stick because I'm just noticing like Japan has a lot of tragedies and stuff going on over there. Well, China and India are both like, yay, people falling in love.
Yep.
But I thought that Buddha came like the Buddhist religion came to Japan. So like why is it more tragedy?
I think it must have something to do about like the cultural interpretation of it with no dramas. Now, most of the time at the end, the spiritual goodness wins over the demons and the demons are sort of driven away, right? So that is a happy ending. But kabuki drama doesn't really draw on Buddhist principles. And the Bunraku stories are more about history, right? And I think it's also like a way that they could do tragedy without it being embodied by human bodies, right? Because they're using the puppets. So they're telling like sad stories, but you don't see a human figure going through suffering. You see a puppet. Does that make sense at all? Yes. Okay. But you're right. It does stick out, right? The Japanese theater does take a little bit more of a sort of a solemn reaction to, or they interpret things a little bit more solemnly. Good. These are good observations. We're having great conversation today, guys. You guys are doing such a great job. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the very last thing. Beijing opera, sometimes also called Peking opera. Okay, I'm going to show you a video about it. But before I show you the video, I want you just to take in this picture and tell me what you see. Maybe a king, face paint, king, demon, right? You can't really tell. Makeup, lots of colors, no masks, right? That's a key thing here, right? What about the costumes? Long dress like costumes, very colorful, huge headdresses. I mean, look at her headdress. Very intricate, right? A lot of gold on him. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Incredible, right? Very extra in a good way. Yeah, it is very larger than life, definitely. Very complex. Great, excellent. Okay, perfect. So we're going to watch this, and it's a little like introduction from, I think it's put out by like the Chinese like travel board where they're sort of like trying to get you to come see things. Oh, Victor's got a clue for us. The colors may indicate what they represent. Very good, Victor. Okay, good. Let's watch this little video and then we will talk about it some more. Sorry, it's buffering. I'm not sure. Think we lost the connection real quick. Is everybody back? Yes, sorry, Ahmed. I didn't even. All right, we'll go back because we just started. So, all right, cool. Let me go back. All right.
If you're showing the video, we can't see it.
Shoot, you can't.